It's bad. Yes. So Artemidorus says, do not delay and read it instantly. Understand? But finally, Caesar does not read the request that Artemidorus gives. Okay. Instead, he has been sidetracked by the other conspirators. Now, Cassius is slightly afraid that his plan has been leaked. Okay. So he tells Brutus that possibly our plan has been leaked because Popilius Lena has been trying to give us his support. Okay. Now, and then, they're also scared because Popilius Lena is slightly, kind of walking towards Caesar, and he's trying to engage Caesar in a conversation. So these people are rather scared that, he might out the plan to Caesar. Okay. So then they're like, they're watching him very carefully, but he does not say anything. Now, all this is for the sake of the audience, where the audience are like, maybe we can expect a surprise ending, and, Populus Lena might kind of reveal everything to Caesar and save him. But that does not happen. Now, what happens is Decius comes in and looks for Metellus Cimber. Okay. Now, Caesar says, are we all ready? What is now amiss that Caesar and his Senate must address? So look at the ego of the man. Okay, he says, what is it? What is missing that that Caesar and his Senate? He has already, declared almost like the Senate belongs to him. Okay, all the problems of the state are actually his problems. He does all of that. Now, Metellus Cimber says, look at the tone he takes. Most high, most mighty, most puissant, that is powerful Caesar, Metellus Cimber throws before thy seat an humble heart, and he kneels down. Everybody seems to be kneeling down before Caesar. Now Caesar says, I prevent thee, Cimber. Okay, and he says, all of this flattery, none of this is going to work with me. Okay, don't think that, Caesar is of the kind, that will be impressed by all of this. Okay, so all these sweet words which can, melt fools, they have no place in my heart. And he's rather rude to Metellus Cimber. So Metellus Cimber says, okay, can you please call back my banished brother? Can you end his exile? And immediately Brutus comes and says, I kiss your hand, Caesar. Okay, but not in flattery. Okay, but all I want is that you please call Metellus Cimber back. Now, Caesar says, Brutus, you, okay, because there's a slight indication that possibly Brutus might be Caesar's son. Okay, nothing has been historically established, but there is a possibility. Now, Cassius says, pardon Caesar, I also would like to put in a request for Publius Cimber. That's called enfranchisement, that is bringing back from exile. And then Caesar embarks on that speech of his where he says, I would be well moved if I were as you. If I were like you, common, then I would have, melted at this request. If I could pray to move, prayers would move me. But I am constant as a northern star, of whose true fixed and resting quality there is no fellow in the firmament. So he says, I am like the North Star, the pole star that has always remained constant. And I have remained, so constant that, or the star has been so constant that he has no peer. He has, Publius Cimber. He has no peer. Okay, no comparison. See, in the sky, there is only one pole star. It is by that pole star, the direction of that pole star, that sailors often used to, understand where the north is. Understand? All compasses also point to that direction. Okay, so you do not have an alternate to the pole star. So he says, if I could move, then prayers would have moved me. But unfortunately, I'm not like you people. I am constant. If I take a decision, I will stick to it. Yes. So he says, the skies are painted with innumerable sparks. Okay, that is, stars. They are all fire and all of them shine. But there is one in all doth hold his place. So in the world is well furnished with men. Men are flesh and blood and apprehensive. Yet in the number I do know but one that unassailable holds on his rank, unshaked of motion, and that I am he. Let me show it. Let me a little show it. Even in this, that I was constant, Simba should be banished, and constant do remain to keep him so. So he says, just as there are innumerable stars in the sky, when he says sparks, see, look at the way that he is kind of placing himself on a level higher than the rest of the people. Understand? He says, there are many sparks in the sky, but there is but one fire. Similarly, there are a number of human beings. Look, the world is full of human beings. But there is just one me. And I am like that North Star, which is unique, which is unmoved, which is constant. So let me be constant in this also. Okay, Publius Simber has been banished. He remains banished. Okay, so not only does Caesar completely disregard the entreaties of his peers, he also proceeds to systematically place himself on a level higher than his peers. Understand? That is his ego speaking. That is his overweening pride that is speaking. This is exactly the sort of power that Brutus is scared might go to Caesar's head once he is given complete and total control over all of Rome's dominions. Okay? Right. So Cinna says, oh Caesar. And Cinna says, hence, that is, wait, will you lift up Olympus? Okay. So he says, are you trying, will you ever lift up Olympus? That's their greatest mountain on which their gods are supposed to be living. Okay, it's like us asking, will you lift up the Himalayas? Can you do that? No. Then you cannot change my opinion. And Decius says, great Caesar. Then Caesar says, doth not Brutus bootless kneel? Isn't Brutus, kneeling uselessly? Bootless means useless, pointless, fruitless. Then Casca has finally lost it. Okay, speak hands for me. And he says, my hands will speak for me. All of you, use your hands. And they start stabbing Caesar. Okay, Casca starts, Brutus ends. Caesar says, et you brute, then falls Caesar. Supposed to be the most famous lines of this play. And then immediately Cinna lets out a cry, liberty, freedom, tyranny is dead. Run hence, proclaim, cry it about the streets. So see, now on what you see is a remarkable form of influencing the crowd. It's a remarkable form of trying to change the crowd, trying to influence the ideology of the crowd. Understand? It is a means of influencing the ideology of the crowd through a form of, systematic repetition. That is what you're seeing. So Cassius says, some to the common pulpits and cry out liberty, freedom, and enfranchisement. Okay, so here Cinna has set up the cry, liberty, freedom, tyranny is dead. Now Cassius says liberty, freedom, and enfranchisement. Okay, enfranchisement is citizenship, inclusion for everybody. Okay, so now they are trying to paint Caesar as a tyrant, okay, as a dictator who would have taken away their rights, who would have taken away the liberty that they were so, they held so precious. Understand? Now, right. Brutus, senators, people and senators, be not affrighted, fly not, stand still. Ambition's debt is paid. So see, now Brutus also declares, he tells everybody in the Senate not to run, to be, constant, to stay calm, because he says, ambition's debt is paid. Caesar has been killed for being ambitious. Now, Casca says, go to the pulpit, Brutus. Okay, so now they want Brutus to address the crowd. Decius suggests that Cassius also goes. Now they want Publius. Okay. And so Cinna says, here is Publius. This is another Publius who is quite old and, he is rather frightened. So then, Brutus wants Publius to be protected from the anger of the crowd in case people get violent. This man is an old man and he does not want him to be affected. Okay. Now Cassius asks, where is Antony? See, Cassius is the ultimate planner. He's an excellent planner and he has accounted for everything and everybody, but he cannot find Antony. Now Trebonius says, fled to his house amazed. Men, wives, children stare, cry out, and run as if it were doomsday. So, out on the streets, Antony has run away to his house, and people are all out on the streets running helter-skelter as though it is, the day of reckoning, as though it is the end of the world, doomsday. Brutus says, we will soon know what destiny has in store for us, whether we will be celebrated as heroes who have preserved the freedom of the people, or whether we are going to be killed as murderers. Okay? Casca says, okay, he that cuts off 20 years of life cuts off so many years of fearing death. So see, if you're going to die about 20 years afterwards, then for 20 years you're living scared of death. But if you die soon, then that many years of fear can be deducted. Now, Brutus says, grant that. He says, I agree with that. And then death is a benefit. So he says, so we are Caesar's friends that have abridged his time of fearing death. Okay, look at the way that, they are rationalizing or justifying their actions. Okay, so first they say it is the, price of ambition. Then, they say that Caesar is a tyrant. They are, supporters of liberty, freedom, and enfranchisement, and so on. Okay, and now he says, we have helped Caesar stop worrying about death. But you remember that Caesar was never afraid of death, or that's what he said. Anyway, now, stoop, that is bend down, Romans, bend down, and let us bathe our hands in Caesar's blood. That's line 105. Up to the elbows and besmear our swords. Then we walk forth even to the marketplace, and waving our red weapons over our heads, let's all cry, peace, freedom, and liberty. Now here comes Calpurnia's dream true. Understand? She had dreamt this exact thing that, Caesar's wounds were spouting blood and there were Romans washing their hands in them. Okay, now that's exactly what Brutus asks all his fellow Romans to do. Okay, the conspirators. He says, wash your hands in his blood, smear them up to your elbows, rub your swords with his blood, and then walk into the marketplace waving these swords and raising the cry of peace, freedom, and liberty. Because if we say that that is what we stood for, then Caesar becomes an automatic antithesis. Understand? He becomes the exact opposite. Right. Now, Cassius says, okay, then let's all do that. Okay, and he, now this is a point of, what we call self-reflexivity. Self-reflexivity, where a play draws attention to its own, stagedness. Okay, to the fact that it is a play. Sometimes you might have seen those plays where there are characters talking, where the husband tells the wife, I want to understand you, but I cannot. And then the wife says, why can't you make an effort to understand me? After all, this is not a real, it's not real life. It is just a play. Then he's like, yes, it's a play. Maybe we should ask the director to change the script. See, when that happens, then the audience who has been viewing this play starts to realize, or, it comes back in their memory that, oh yes, this is a play, of course. Okay. So when the play draws attention to its own artifice, okay, to its own staged quality, that is called self-reflexivity. So as, the conspirators bend down to wash their hands in the blood of Julius Caesar, Cassius remarks, how many ages hence shall this lofty scene be acted over in states unborn and accents yet unknown? So he says, just imagine, centuries from now, there will still be people who will be enacting this iconic scene, in countries that have not been formed yet, in languages that we have no idea exist. Okay, and that has been the case because, I think Julius Caesar has been staged from English to German to French to Hindi to Malayalam to even Swahili. Okay, so you name the language, this play probably has been staged in it. Okay, so looking back at this point of time, if this were a play, if you people had been enacting this, this would be that point of self-reflexivity. Yes. So, and Brutus continues that, how many times shall Caesar bleed in sport, that now on Pompey's basis lies along no worthier than the dust? So he says exactly at this point, at the base of Pompey's statue, at the foundation of Pompey's statue, Caesar would be lying and bleeding, and this scene would be repeated so often. Okay, so even for the Elizabethans at that point of time, where they would be watching a recounting of the life and death of Julius Caesar, when the play calls attention to the fact that it's a play, it's, a very, very interesting moment for them. It's kind of an unconventional thing, so to speak. Right. Now, Cassius says, so oft that shall be, so often shall the knot of us be called the men that gave their country liberty. Okay, so now they're also ascribing a historical role to themselves. Okay, they're ascribing a historical role to themselves. When they say that, we will be known as those men who set their country free. But this contains that note of dramatic irony, because you and I, we know, the Elizabethan audiences also knew that that is not going to be the case. Okay, they are going to have a tremendous fall from grace, that history will color them as villains. Right? Yeah. So, yeah. Now, Decius says, shall we move forward? And Cassius says, yes, every man set forward, and Brutus will lead us. Why? Because Brutus has the most credibility among them all. And Brutus's words carry immense value in the eyes of the people. Now, Brutus says, wait a minute, somebody is approaching us. Yes, and that is a friend of Antony's. It's a servant. Okay. Now, Brutus, he comes to Brutus. The servant comes and says, thus, Brutus, did my master bid me kneel. See, kneeling is a sign of servitude. Okay. It is a sign of servitude. So, yeah. And, so this man has also been asked to kneel at Brutus's feet, and, to fall at his feet and beg him, and to tell him, Brutus is noble, wise, valiant, and honest. Caesar was mighty, bold, royal, and loving. Look at the terms that this man, Antony, is using for both of these people. Brutus is noble, the things that he valued the most. Okay. Then wise, brave, honest. These are the four things that Brutus prides himself on being, or imagines that he is. Caesar was mighty. He was strong. He was bold, fearless, royal. That is, he deserved to be the king, is what Antony is saying. And loving. I say I love Brutus and I honor him. So he tells his friend, tell Brutus that I love him, I honor him, and tell him that I was afraid of Caesar and I honored him and loved him. So see, he says he was never afraid of Brutus. Okay, by saying that, he is appealing to Brutus's sense of camaraderie. Okay. That is, he is trying to say that Brutus has always treated him like an equal, while Julius Caesar treated Antony like an inferior. A friend, but still inferior. And we can see that also. Now, if Brutus will vouchsafe, guarantee, if Brutus will guarantee that Antony may safely come to him and be resolved or convinced, or have explained how Caesar hath deserved to lie in death, Mark Antony shall not love Caesar dead as well as Brutus loving, but will follow the fortunes and affairs of noble Brutus, thorough the hazards of this untrod state with all true faith. So says my master Antony. So the message that he sends is very simple. Okay, you are noble, you are wise, okay, you are brave and honest. Caesar was strong, he was bold, he was royal, regal, and he was a loving man. Okay, I did not fear you. I loved you and I honored you. But Caesar, I feared, loved, and honored. So if you can guarantee my safety, I would like to hear from you, on what grounds did Caesar deserve to die? If you convince me, then I promise you that you will have my loyalty, that I will love you more than I love the dead Caesar. And I will commit myself to you more than I commit myself to the cause of Caesar. Okay, to the death of Caesar. Understand? So he says this. And he says, I will follow Brutus through this entirely new state of affairs, okay, with complete faith. So I will accept your leadership if you can convince me why Caesar deserved to die. Okay, that's what he wants to say. Now, Brutus tells the servant, okay, your master is wise, he's brave, and I've always thought that way about him. So you tell him to come. No, I give my not be touched. So servant says, oh, I'll get him. Now, Brutus says, I know that we shall have him well to friend. So he says, I know that we can make a friend out of Antony, because see, that will be even more convincing to the people. Antony himself standing by the conspirators will mean that what they said about Caesar is true. Now Cassius says, I also wish he were our friend, but I have my misgivings about him. I have my doubts about his intentions. I don't think that, this is what he wants to do. And Antony comes in and they say, welcome, Mark Antony, says Brutus. And Antony says, oh, mighty Caesar, dost thou lie so low? Okay. And he says, all the conquests, all the, glory that you won has come to this much. Okay. It has come to your injured body, crumpled body lying at the base of Pompey's statue. Now he says, I wish you all the very best, but I don't know, gentlemen, what you had in mind. Okay. And he says that who else must be let blood? Who else is rank? If I myself, there is no hour so fit as Caesar's death hour, nor so no instrument of half that worth as those your swords, made rich with the most noble blood of all this world. I do beseech ye, if you bear me hard, now whilst your purple hands do reek and smoke, fulfill your pleasure, live 1,000 years. I shall not find myself so apt to die. No place will please me so, no mean of death as here by Caesar, and by you cut off, the choice and master spirits of this age. So he says, I wish you, Caesar, the very best in your, next life. But he says, I don't know, gentlemen. Okay, I don't know what your intentions are. I don't know who is right. I don't know who is wrong. But he says, this is the best time. If you have any grudge against me, if you think I am unworthy, then this is the best time, when my best friend is lying dead, and your swords are, reeking of his blood, then your swords are the best instrument, and this is the best place for me to die, because not only will I be joining the best mind and the best person at the time of his death, but I will be getting killed also by extremely worthy citizens. So see, he praises his friend, he praises his enemies. Okay, and this is an indication, what we call foreshadowing. Foreshadowing of the kind of, verbal felicity. Okay, verbal felicity or skill that Mark Antony is capable of displaying. See, all this time he has been underestimated. Okay, he has been ignored as a man who lived only for pleasure. Okay, but now he is going to come into his own. Okay, he is showing his elements when the need arose. Understand? Yeah. So Brutus says, oh, Antony, beg not your death of us. Okay, don't ask for a death from our hands. Okay, we might appear bloody and cruel, Okay, but that may seem that way, but that is not the case. And this, the bleeding business they have done, our hands, they have killed Caesar, yes, but you do not see our hearts. You do not see how injured we are. They are pitiful and pity to the general wrong of Rome. Okay, so he says, our hearts are full of sorrow, not just about Caesar, but also about the condition of Rome. Okay, hath done this deed on Caesar for your part. To you our swords have leaden points, Mark Antony, our arms in strength of malice, and our hearts of brothers' temper do receive you in with all kind love, good thoughts, and reverence. Okay, so he says our arms are, very, very welcoming towards you. Okay, and to you, our swords have points made of lead, which means that they will not pierce you, they will not harm you. Yes. Now, Cassius says, your voice will be as strong as any man's in the disposing of new dignities. So he says, when we redistribute the power structure of this republic, we will definitely consider you. So here what Cassius is doing is, he's sounding out Antony's ambitions. Okay, he's trying to sound out Antony's ambitions. Okay, he wants to find out what exactly lies in Antony's heart. Brutus says, only be patient till we have, calmed the crowd down. Okay, so he says, only be patient till we have appeased, that is 180. The multitude beside themselves with fear, and then we will deliver you the cause. Why I, that did love Caesar when I struck him, have thus proceeded. Okay, so he says, first let us go and calm the crowd down, because they are extremely crazed with worry, and then I will tell you why I, who loved Caesar, why I struck him, why I killed him. Antony says, I don't doubt your wisdom. I agree. Okay, let each man render, give me his bloody hand. Okay, Marcus Brutus, he shakes his hand. Caius Cassius shakes his hand. Decius Brutus, Metellus, Cinna, Casca. Okay, and he says, Trebonius. Okay, and then he says that, my condition is very precarious right now. Okay, I know that, you don't trust me, but, you might consider me in two ways. One, you might consider me a coward because my best friend is, stabbed so brutally and is lying here at the foot of Pompey's statue. And I'm not taking revenge, so you might consider me a coward. On the other hand, you might consider me a flatterer, maybe, because, I am saying all these good things about you. And he says, that I did love thee, Caesar. It is true, he tells Caesar, I did love you. If then thy spirit look upon us now, shall it not grieve thee dearer than thy death to see Antony, thy Antony making his peace, shaking the bloody fingers of thy foes, most noble in the presence of thy corse? Had I as many eyes as thou hast wounds, weeping as fast as they stream forth thy blood, it would become me better than to close in terms of friendship with thine enemies. Pardon me, Julius, here wast thou bade, brave heart. Okay, heart is a deer. Okay, but at the same time, it is also the heart. It is a pun again. See, this play has a kind of, verbal play on words, that. So H-A-R-T, heart, actually means deer, but it also can sound as H-E-A-R-T, heart. Yes. So, here didst thou fall, and here thy hunters stand, signed in thy spoil, crimsoned in thy lethe. O world, thou wast the forest to this heart. Again, he uses the forest and heart, deer comparison. And this indeed, O world, the heart of thee. How like a deer, stroken by many princes, dost thou lie here. Yes. So see, he looks at Julius Caesar, he looks at the perpetrators of this crime, and first he shakes hands with them, and then he says, Caesar, you might be wondering, what I am doing. I'm standing here shaking hands with the very men who killed you, who have, put so many stab wounds in you, and you're lying there at the base of Pompey's statue. And he says, you are like that deer, heart, that has been hunted down by many princes. Okay, So, it's almost like, he has been killed for sport. Okay, so that is what is paining Antony. He's like, here you are, blood oozing out of you, out of your heart. Okay, now Cassius says, Mark Antony. Then Antony says, I'm sorry, Caius Cassius. The enemies of Caesar shall say this. Then in a friend it is called modesty. So he says, come on, okay. The enemies of Caesar might say that, but when a friend says that, it is only reasonable. Now Cassius says, I don't blame you for praising Caesar. Okay, so that is what. So when Antony says, even the enemies of Caesar will say that this country, Rome, was Caesar's world. It was his forest. Okay, it was everything to him. And here he is lying injured. Okay, he's lying dead with so many stab wounds on him. Okay, that he looks like a deer that has been hunted down by a number of men. Okay, even his worst enemies will acknowledge this. Then when a friend says that, it is very reasonable. Okay, now Cassius says, I don't blame you, but what compact mean you to have with us? What is your intention? Why are you here? So he says, will you be pricked in number of our friends, or shall we on and not depend on you? So he says, shall we count you as our friend, or shall we just move on without you? Will you join us or not? Antony says, therefore I took your hands, but was indeed swayed from the point looking down on Caesar. Friends, I am with you all and love you all upon this hope that you shall give me reasons why and wherein Caesar was dangerous. So see, he still wants to know. While Brutus told him that I'll tell you later, he's trying to find out now. Yes. Now Brutus says, or else this was a savage spectacle. Our reasons are so full of good regard. There were you, Antony, the son of Caesar, you should be satisfied. Okay. So see, again, there is this veiled reference to the possibility that Antony also could be Caesar's son. But the thing is that he loved Antony as much as he loved his, he would have loved his son. Okay. So Antony said, that's all I want. That's all I want. Moreover, suitor that I may produce his body to the marketplace and in the pulpit, as becomes a friend, speak in the order of his funeral. Okay. Now this is very important. He says, I would like to bring his body to the public platform, and I would like to speak about him as friends are allowed to speak at the funerals of their friends. Brutus says, sure, you can do that. No problem. And Cassius says, Brutus, 1 minute, please. He takes him aside. Okay. You know not what you do. Do not consent that Antony speak in his funeral. Know you how much the people may be moved by that which he will utter? See, Cassius, brilliant man. Okay, he is able to understand the intentions. Then Brutus tells him, by your pardon, will myself to the pulpit first. So he says, okay, I'll do one thing. I will speak first and show the reasons for our Caesar's death. Then Antony will speak and I will object. He speaks by leave and by permission. So he says, I will let everybody know that he is speaking with our permission. He is speaking, because we loved him too. That we are, kind of convinced that Caesar, or we have allowed that Caesar will have all the honorable, rituals of burial and so on. And that will work for us. Okay. So here, Brutus seems to imagine that the crowds of Rome are going to listen to his measured, logical arguments. Understand? Now, see, we were talking about the crowds in Shakespeare. Okay. Now, this is the crowd, the mentality of the crowd everywhere in the world. They are roused by passion. They are roused by emotion. Understand? Now, here is Brutus, fully convinced that his, commonsensical, measured, very, very brief and logical statements are going to settle in the minds of the people. So he says, first, I will speak. Then we will say that, Antony is speaking with our permission, and we will let him speak. And also we will give Caesar an honorable burial. With that, people will be convinced that we are good people. Okay. Now, Cassius says, I know not what may fall. I like it. So I don't know what is going to happen. I don't like it. But Brutus tells him, Mark Antony, here, take your Caesar's body. Okay, you shall not in your funeral speech blame us, but speak all good you can devise of Caesar, and say you do it by our permission. Else you shall not have any hand at all about his funeral, and you shall speak in the same pulpit whereto I am going after my speech is ended. So he says, okay, you can bring Caesar's body and you can keep it there and you can talk after I have spoken. But you have to say that, you are speaking with our permission. Then you also have to, paint us in the right light. Don't blame us. Okay, then you can speak. Antony says, that's all I want to do. Okay. Brutus says, prepare the body then and follow us, which means that, he tells Antony to, clean up the body, get rid of all the blood and, nicely cover it in a shroud and bring it. That is what is called preparing the body. They all leave.
Excuse me,
except Antony. Yeah, Prima.
Ma'am, at one point somewhere I read that Caesar's body is used as the ultimate political weapon in this play.
Yes, it's coming up. That is exactly what is going to happen. See, that is why I laid that emphasis on preparing the body. Is the body prepared? The blood is supposed to be gotten rid of, and he has to be wrapped in a shroud. Bring him in with dignity so that the crowd does not see what has happened to him. That is what is, that is what Brutus had intended. Understand? That is what they expect Antony to do. Now they all leave, and Antony is alone with Caesar's body. Now Antony tells Caesar's body, oh, pardon me. Okay, that's 255 line. Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth. Okay, so that I am meek and gentle with these butchers. So see, he's calling Caesar's body, okay, bleeding piece of earth, because such was Caesar's attachment to Rome that he was a part of its geography. Okay, he was a part of Rome's geography. He was a part, he considered himself to be a piece of Rome. Okay, so he says, I'm sorry that I am being so subservient. Okay, I am being so servile. Okay, and so friendly to those people who killed you. Yeah, he calls them butchers. Thou art the ruins of the noblest man. So this body, it is ruins. Understand? Ruins is when something falls into disuse, when something just breaks down. That's ruins. Okay. Ruins of the noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. Woe to the hand that shed this costly blood. Over thy wounds now do I prophesy, which like dumb mouths do ope their ruby lips to beg the voice and utterance of my tongue. Okay, a curse shall light upon the limbs of men, domestic fury and fierce civil strife shall cumber all the parts of Italy, blood and destruction shall be so in use, and dreadful objects so familiar, that mothers shall but smile when they behold their infants quartered with the hands of war. All pity choked with custom of fell deeds, and Caesar's spirit raging for revenge. With Ate by his side come hot from hell, shall in these confines with a monarch's voice cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war, that this foul deed shall smell above the earth with carrion men groaning for burial. Understand? So he first asks Caesar, to forgive him for shaking hands with the butchers. And then he says, okay, I prophesy, I promise you, I predict that there shall be such civil strife that will create obstacles in all parts of Italy, and there will be, blood and let's say destruction will be so common that mothers will get used to the sight of their infants being killed. They will just smile, understand? By seeing their infants quartered is, cut down with the hands of war. And he says that, your spirit shall come with the goddess of destruction. Ate, the goddess of destruction, your spirit will come and, you will unleash the dogs of war. All these are, classic mythological references. Okay, so you'll unleash the dogs of war all over this land. I will let loose a chain of events which will ruin the peace of mind, the domestic atmosphere, as well as, the comfort that these men, these conspirators, these perpetrators have enjoyed for so many years. Okay, I will render them ineffectual. I will destroy them. Okay. So he says, this foul deed shall smell above the earth with carrion men groaning for burial. So he says, I will ensure that, your murder is paid for with the innumerable bodies of men that shall line, or let's say that shall layer this earth and beg for burial. Okay, there will be so many people dead that it will be difficult to bury them all. I will unleash that kind of a havoc in your name. Now, Octavius's servant comes in. You serve Octavius Caesar, do you not? Okay, that is what Brutus asks him. Now, servant says, I do, Mark Antony. So he says, Caesar did write for him to come from Rome. Now, this is what I said, new characters being introduced. Servant says, yes, he received the letters and he's coming. Okay,
Ma'am,
and then he,
ma'am, your voice is breaking, ma'am.
oh, till where did you people hear? Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am, it's better now.
Okay, where did you people hear? Octavius?
Yes, ma'am. Entering
Yes.
of Octavius.
Yes, so Octavius will be coming. Yes, he is foreshadowing Caesar's ghost, because in the following scenes, acts, what happens is that Caesar's ghost does make an appearance. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. So, so he has received the letters of Caesar. Octavius has received it, and he's coming. And that is when the servant notices, Caesar's dead body. Okay. Now, Antony says, your heart is big. You cry it all out right now. Okay. And he says, is your master coming? He says, he is, camped a few miles away from Rome. So he tells him, go tell him what has happened, that, this is a mourning Rome. This is a Rome that is sad. It is a dangerous Rome, and it is not safe for him to come here yet. Okay. So tell him to stay there. Okay. And, you do not come back, do not go anywhere. You stay here for some time. Okay. Don't go anywhere till I take this dead body to the marketplace. And then with my speech, with my oration, I will show the people the cruelty that these men have committed. Okay. And then you tell Octavius that also what I have said, and then you convey what has transpired. Understand? So this is what is going to happen now. Understand? So if you notice in this scene, Brutus speaks from the point of, proving to Antony how honorable he is. Okay, whereas Antony exploits that very weakness. If you notice, he does not, talk to Cassius. He does not appeal to Cassius's better emotions. He does not ask Cinna or Metellus or Trebonius, anybody, for help. He only appeals to Brutus, because he understands that in this situation, these men look upon Brutus as their leader. Okay, and by appealing to Brutus's honorable nature, what he does is that he hands over the responsibility of, assuaging, convincing, comforting Antony. Okay, he kind of, tells Antony that you are the one who is supposed to comfort me. I am, dedicating my cause to you. I am asking you for help. And Brutus, naturally being so anxious about his honor, immediately rushes to defend Antony, completely disregarding the observations that Cassius has made about him. Now, in Antony's mind, he fully well remembers what Caesar once spoke about Cassius. Understand? So, do you have any doubts about this? This is where it comes to an end. The scene comes to an end. Do you have any doubts? No doubts. You are a very convinced class. Okay. Right. Now we come to Act 3, Scene 2. Again, okay, within this particular act, this is a very, very significant scene. Now, Brutus goes to the pulpit. Cassius, citizens, everybody is there. Now, the citizens say, we want to have answers. Okay, we need to be convinced. So tell us. So Brutus says, then come with me, follow me, give me audience, listen to me, my dear friends. Now he says, Cassius, you go to the other street. Okay, divide the people. Okay, and those that will hear me speak, let them stay here. Those that will follow Cassius, go with him. Okay, and all the reasons for Caesar's death will be given to you. Okay, so some say, I will hear Brutus, I will hear Cassius. Then we can compare what they are saying. Okay, then third citizen says, everybody keep quiet. The noble Brutus. See, look at that. Even a citizen says, the noble Brutus is on the platform. So listen to him. So this is Brutus's speech. Okay. Be patient till the last, Romans, countrymen and lovers. Bear me for my cause and be silent, for that you may hear. Believe me for mine honor and have respect to mine honor. Look at the number of times the word honor comes here. Okay. That you may believe. Censure me, scold me in your wisdom, and awake your senses, that you may be the better judge. If there be any in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him I say that Brutus's love to Caesar was no less than his. If then that friend demand why Brutus rose against Caesar, this is my answer. Very classic lines coming up next. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. Had you rather Caesar were living and die all slaves than Caesar were dead to live all free men? As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it, for he was valiant. I honor him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. So see, he was brave, so I honored him. But he was ambitious, so I killed him. There is tears for his love, joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, and death for his ambition. So see, he is giving cause effect. So tears, okay, they are crying because they remembered his love. There was joy for his, luck, for the kind of position that he reached. Honor, they respect his bravery, and there is death for his ambition. Who is here so base? Okay, who here is so low, is so, let's say weak, that they would be a slave? If any, speak. For him I have offended. So if you wanted to be a slave, then I have stopped you from being a slave. That is what I did. I am sorry for that. If any, speak. For him I have offended. Who is here so vile? Now, who is so evil that they will not love his country? If any, speak. For him I have offended. I pause for a reply. So look at that. Brutus says, friends, Romans, lovers. That is, all my dear people. Bear me, listen to me for a minute, and then you can judge whether I was right or wrong. And you can scold me if you think I was wrong. You can punish me if you think I was wrong. He says, all of you, if anybody among you was a friend of Caesar's, then you should understand that I was also a friend of Caesar's. If I were a friend of Caesar's, then why did I kill him? I killed him because for your sake. Okay. Would you have that Caesar lived and you all became slaves, or that Caesar died and you remained free people? So see, he is putting the onus or the responsibility on the people. He is swaying the crowd using those aspects of their life that they cherish the most. Their freedom, their liberty, their dignity. Okay, so he says, he was ambitious, so I killed him. He was brave, I loved him. He was a friend, I cared about him. But he was ambitious, so I killed him. Then he goes about the cause and effect relationship. Okay, and he says, if you wanted to be a slave, then I am sorry, I wronged you. If you did not love your country, then I am sorry, I wronged you. But to anybody else, I am right. I have done the right thing. And he says, now I'm going to pause for your reaction. Do you think I did something wrong? Then all of the crowd says, no, Brutus, no, absolutely right. Then Brutus says, then I haven't offended anybody. I have done no more to Caesar than you shall do to Brutus. So he says, I did to Caesar what you would have done to Brutus, me, if I had done something like this, if I had been ambitious. The question of his death is enrolled in the capital. Okay, so they have, kind of written down why he was killed. His glory not extenuated, wherein he was worthy, nor his offenses enforced, for which he suffered death. So he says, we haven't exaggerated, extenuated, exaggerated. Okay, we haven't exaggerated his glory, nor have we, kind of, sorry, extenuated is understated, downplayed. We haven't, kind of, let's say, downplayed his glory, nor have we overstated his faults, okay, his errors. Yes. So Mark Antony comes with the body of Caesar. So he says, before that, Caesar, Brutus says, we have written the story of Caesar very, very fairly. It's very important. We have written a story very fairly. We haven't, kind of downplayed or ignored his good side. At the same time, we have not exaggerated his bad side. We have written about him as he was. Perfect. Now what happens is, Mark Antony comes with Caesar's body. Brutus continues. Here comes his body mourned by Mark Antony, who, though he had no hand in his death. See, now, and Brutus says, Antony had no hand in Caesar's death. Shall receive the benefit of his dying. So, though, he didn't kill Caesar, he is going to benefit from his dying. Okay, in the Commonwealth, as you, will you not? So he says, see, now, I did. So he says, I the good of Rome, I have the same dagger for myself when it shall please my country to need my death. Okay, very, very prophetic statement. Okay, so, Brutus says, here Mark Antony is there, and he is also a free man, just like you people are, because Caesar died. And he says, now I leave, and this knife that I used to kill Caesar, see, he has admitted to killing Caesar. So this knife that I killed Caesar with, I have kept for myself if I do the same thing that Caesar did. Immediately everybody said, no, Brutus, live. Look at the way, they are all encouraging. Some time ago, this was the crowd that cheered Pompey when he returned with foreign riches. Then they stood there and cheered Julius Caesar when he returned after having killed Pompey. Right? Now they are cheering Brutus, who talks about having killed Caesar. See, look at the way that the complexion, the ideology, the thought process of the crowd changes. Now, citizen says, bring him with triumph home unto his house. Give him a statue with his ancestors. Everybody wants to honor Brutus. Third citizen says, let him be Caesar. Okay, so see, they're already trying to replace one dictator with another. So this is why, when a monarch dies somewhere, they always say, the king is dead, long live the king. Okay, so this king is dead, the next king comes. It's kind of a natural thing. Let him be Caesar. Fourth citizen says, Caesar's better parts shall be crowned in Brutus. So see, they see that Brutus is like Caesar, only thing Brutus may be better, a better version of Caesar. So all the good things about Caesar are highlighted in Brutus. He is, the good segments of Caesar, that is magnified. We'll bring him to his house with shouts and clamor. So they're all going to escort Brutus to his house with, celebration and cheers and everything. Then Brutus says, my countrymen, immediately everybody says, oh, silence, silence, Brutus is speaking. Good countrymen, let me depart alone. I will go by myself, thank you. And for my sake, you stay here with Antony. And, honor Caesar's dead body. Okay, and listen to what Antony has to say. The good things about Caesar. Okay, and he says, Antony has our permission to speak. And he says, nobody leave here. It is my personal request. All of you stay here. Okay, again, a moment of dramatic irony. Okay, So everybody says, okay, everybody, let's just wait for Mark Antony. Let him go to the public platform and we'll hear you. Okay. Now, Antony says, for Brutus's sake, I am beholding to you. So he says, I am very indebted to, you because, Brutus has asked you to stay. Okay. Okay. Then somebody says, what did he speak, and so on. And, somebody says, he better not speak ill of Brutus, because if he does that, we will attack him. Yes. Then somebody says, this Caesar was a tyrant. Okay. There was yeah, totally, man. He was a tyrant, and it is wonderful that Rome is rid of him. Okay. Then somebody says, keep quiet. Let us listen to Antony. So see, this was the very Caesar that they all celebrated, okay, thought was the pride of Rome, and considered him to be Rome, and so on. Now they're all saying, let him not speak ill of Brutus. Not only that, Caesar was a tyrant. Further evidence of the fickleness of the crowd. Yes. Now Antony starts. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. So see, he makes sure that, he has the pulse of the crowd. They don't want to hear great things about Caesar immediately. Okay. The good is oft interred with, the evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus, Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it is a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so they are all honorable men. I come to speak in Caesar's funeral. So see, already he has set the tone. He says, friends, Romans, countrymen. Okay. Remember the address that Brutus gave, it was also more or less the same. He says, I haven't come here to praise Caesar, I have come to bury him. Because the terrible things that people do, okay, that men do, lives after them. People remember those things. But the good that they have done in this world, buried with them. It is buried with them. Nobody remembers those things. Which is in a way telling the crowd what they are doing. He says, you have forgotten all the wonderful things that Caesar did for you. Now you remember him as a tyrant, as a dictator, as a terrible man, and so on. Okay. And he says, you all said that, the noble Brutus. See again, he's now using this word noble to very good use. He says, the noble Brutus, okay, has told you that Caesar was ambitious. Then, of course, maybe, being ambitious is a fault, and, Caesar has answered very, very painfully for it. And he says, now I am speaking with Brutus's and the other people's permission, because Brutus is an honorable man. Everybody else is also very honorable. I have come to speak at Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. So he was my friend. He was a good friend, and he was very, very fair to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. So see, I have known Caesar to be a kind, friendly, and just human being. In a way, he's trying to jog the crowd's memory by reminding them that Caesar was also a friend to them, okay, was faithful to them, okay, and fair to them. But Brutus said that, so of course, Brutus is an honorable man, so it's all true. He had brought many captives home to Rome. So he brought a lot of captives from all these wars. He had brought them home, and, we ransomed them. We exchanged them for money. And we filled our general treasury with money, coffers. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? It's like, instead of keeping the money for himself, he put it all in the general treasury. So maybe, that seems ambitious to you. Okay. Then he says, that the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. So he says, when the poor and the disadvantaged cried, Caesar has cried with them. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. It's like if you're ambitious, you should not be such a soft-hearted individual. You should not have this sympathy, because if you have sympathy, then you will try to work for these people and you will ignore your own cause. Then, yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. So see that idea about Brutus, about Julius Caesar being ambitious. Ambition, thy death is paid. Remember. So he says, oh, you poor people cried, Caesar cried with you. He ransomed prisoners and filled your, treasury with money. Ambition should be harder. It should be more cruel, no? But it doesn't seem to be like that. But Brutus is saying he was ambitious. So, and Brutus is honorable. So maybe it is true. Then he says, you all did see that on the Lupercal, I thrice presented him a kingly crown. See, again, he is using their memories. Like on the day of the Lupercal, I gave him the crown thrice, and thrice he refused it. See, remember that, Casca tells him that each time his fingers were sticking to the crown more and more, and he was very, very reluctant to refuse the crown, right? But in a way, it was good because, it helps Caesar now. So he says, which he did refuse thrice. Was that ambition? This is tell me. I offered the crown thrice. He refused it thrice. Is that what ambitious people do? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious. Brutus is an honorable man. Yeah. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke. See, he remembers that, people will get angry because they are still full of Brutus's ideas. So he says, I'm not, trying to prove that Brutus is lying, but I am here to speak about what I know. Okay, what I know. You all did love him once, and not without cause. You did not love him without any reason. You loved him with a reason, for a reason. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? Okay, he says, why are you not mourning for him? O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. So he says, judgment, clarity, logic, reason. Okay, you have gone away to animals. You have run away to animals. And human beings have lost their common sense. Bear with me, means have patience with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it comes back to me. He says, I am very emotional. My heart is in the coffin with Caesar. I have to wait for it to come back to me. So he gives a pause. Why he gives a pause is that he wants the audience to let all of this idea sink into his mind. Now, first it is into their minds. Excuse me, please. I'm sorry about that. Okay. So he wants to let that idea sink into their minds. Now, first citizen says, there is some reason to what, some point to what this man is saying. Okay. Now he's like, if you think about it, we did the wrong thing by Caesar. Okay. Yes. Now he says, has he? And he says, now I think there will be somebody even more terrible coming instead of Caesar. Okay. So he says, remember, he did not take the crown. So it is sure that he is not ambitious. Okay. Okay. So now everybody's feeling sorry for Mark Antony. He's like, poor soul. His eyes are as red as fire with all the weeping and so. Now everybody's like, there is no one in Rome more noble than Antony. Okay. They say, now keep quiet. He's going to speak again. So now this whole noble thing has shifted to Antony. Now Antony continues. But yesterday the word of Caesar might have stood against the world. Now he lies there, and none so poor to do him reverence. O masters, if I were disposed to stir your hearts and minds to mutiny and rage, I should do Brutus wrong and Cassius wrong, who you all know are honorable men. So he says, once upon a time, yesterday, it would have been, the word of Caesar against the entire world. His word would have protected all of you. But now nobody is there to speak for him. Nobody is showing him any respect. And he calls these poor people masters. He calls the citizens masters. He's like, oh, masters, if I wanted, if I wish I had the power to stir you to anger, to rebel against Brutus and Cassius. But I cannot do that because they are honorable men. Now he's slowly putting the seeds of mutiny and anger in the minds of the people. Understand? Very important words. Now, he says, I rather choose to wrong the dead. Okay, so I'm not going to wrong the living, but I will wrong the dead, to wrong myself and you, than I will wrong such honorable men. So he says, I cannot wrong them. They're honorable men. So I will wrong myself. I will do an injustice to you. I will do an injustice to this man who lies dead. Understand? And then he pulls out a document. Okay, here is a parchment with the seal of Caesar. His personal seal is there. I found it in his closet, in his cupboard. This is his will. Okay, so he says, let the people hear this testament. Okay, will. Let the people hear this will, which he says, I don't mean to read. Okay, and they would go and kiss dead Caesar's wounds and dip their napkins in his sacred blood, yea, beg a hair of him for memory, and dying mention it in their wills, bequeathing it as a rich legacy unto their issue. So, he says, I promise you, when you read this, okay, you are going to, treat him as a saint, dip your handkerchiefs in for a head, keep it as a legacy, will write it in your will for your children and their children. Citizen says, okay, we'll hear it. Come on, read it. Okay. Now, and he says, one minute, I will. He says, but I should not read it. See, it's very interesting. When you try to increase the suspense value of something, then that thing becomes even more precious. I cannot read it. Okay. It is not meet, means fitting. It is not fitting that you know how Caesar loved you, because if you know how Caesar loved you, then looking at this dead body here, you're going to get very upset, and then you are going to get violent, and you're going to be very angry with Brutus and Cassius, and as you know, they were all honorable men. So so he says, it is not fitting that you know how much Caesar loved you, because you are not wood, you are not stones, you are human beings. And being human beings, when you hear the will of Caesar, look at the words again. Earlier it was rage and mutiny. Now it is, it will inflame you. It will make you mad. It is good you know not that you are his heirs, for if you should, what would come of it? So he says, it is good that you don't know that he has made you his successors. He has given all his wealth to you. Because if you know that, then you're going to get very angry and that is very terrible. But he already told them that. Then he said, no, read the will, we will hear it. You shall read the will. He says, will you be patient? Will you wait a while? Because, I think I just said too much. It's like, oops, I shouldn't have said all those things. Okay, because I fear that the honorable men, and there are daggers that stabbed Caesar. I am now worried, they might kill me also. Then the citizen says, they were traitors, honorable men. See how the crowd changes again. Look at the fickleness. Okay, so they celebrated Pompey, who was killed by Caesar. They celebrated him. They celebrated Brutus, who killed Caesar. They are celebrating Antony, who is bringing Caesar's body. And now they are back to adoring Caesar because they realize that probably there is something in the will. Yeah. You will compel me to read the will. You're forcing me to read the will. Then make a ring about the corpse of Caesar. Make a ring around the dead body of Caesar. Let me show you him that made the will. Shall I descend? Shall I? Will you allow me? So this is first. You stand around his dead body. Okay, and let me show you the man who made the will. Can I do that? Will you give me permission? So see, by asking for permission, he puts the power in the hands of the people. Okay, but in a way that was different than what Brutus did. Brutus only allowed them to judge his character. Okay, said, I am honorable, I am honorable, so I won't do anything wrong. Okay, he did not give them that, the power of action. But here, Antony is giving them the power of action. Okay, by making them actively participate in this conversation. Everybody says, come down, descend, you shall have leave. So, they all are standing around him. Okay, now stand, and they're like, stand around the body, make room for Antony. He's like, no, don't stand so close to me, just keep a bit of distance. They all do that. Okay, and then he says, if you have tears, prepare to shed them. Okay, so if you have tears in your, in your tear ducts, be ready to cry. You all do know this mantle. I remember the first time ever Caesar put it on. Now he is playing for sentimental value. It was on a summer's evening in his tent. So he's talking about Caesar's cloak. It's a kind of a garment there. Okay, I remember the first time he put it on, it was evening. Okay, and he had defeated the Nervi. And he says, look, in this place ran Cassius's dagger through. Okay, see what a rent the envious Casca made. Through this the well-beloved Brutus stabbed as he plucked his cursed steel away. Mark how the blood of Caesar followed it as rushing out of doors to be resolved. If Brutus so unkindly knocked or no. For Brutus, as you know, was Caesar's angel, his most beloved. Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him, for this was the most unkindest cut of all. Okay, this was the ultimate betrayal. For when the noble Caesar saw him stab, ingratitude more strong than traitors' arms quite vanquished him. Then burst his mighty heart, and in this gentle and in his mantle, muffling up his face, even at the base of Pompey's statue, great Caesar fell. Oh, what a fall was there, my countrymen! Then and you and all of us fell down. Okay, whilst bloody treason flourished over us. Oh, now you weep, and I perceive you feel the dint of pity. These are gracious drops, kind souls. What weep you when you but behold our Caesar's vesture wounded? Look you here. Here is himself marred as you see with traitors. Okay, so he says this was Caesar's cloak. Okay, and I still remember when he wore it for the first time after he had defeated the Nervi. Here, what Antony does is he arouses national pride. He's like, this was a great battle and he won. And then, he had worn this for the first time. So, it's to mark that victory that he won for his country. And he says, see, here, this is the hole where, this man, Cassius's knife went. That was Casca. There's like, see, here is where Brutus stabbed him, and Caesar's blood has followed it. There, the trail of blood is there on the cloak. This is where Caesar's blood followed to find out whether it was really Brutus who murdered him, who stabbed him. Because even his blood couldn't believe, because Caesar loved Brutus so much. He loved him like his own angel. He was the most beloved of Caesar. Okay. Now see, here there is a subtle comparison, at least for the Elizabethans, between the betrayal of God by Lucifer. Okay, Lucifer was the most beloved angel of God, and Lucifer was the one who committed the ultimate betrayal. So that objective correlative is there for the audience to follow, the Elizabethan audience to follow. Yes, this is done by Shakespeare, not them. Yes, okay. And he says this was the most unkindest cut of all. This was the ultimate betrayal, and that was what caused Caesar to fall, to die. And he says when Caesar fell, we all fell. all of Rome fell. You and I fell. So see, now he has aligned the crowd with his cause and linked it all to Caesar. Then he says, when the noble Caesar saw him stab, ingratitude, more strong than traitors' arms, quite vanquished him, defeated him. Okay, and that is when he died of a broken heart. What he's trying to say is that Caesar is stronger, is so strong that these wounds could not have killed him. But it is the act of betrayal that finally killed him. So this kind of raw emotion appeals to the crowd. Okay, they identify with it. They are moved by it. Yes. So see, he says, you are so moved by his cloak. Let me show you the body and you see what those traitors did with him. Understand? Everybody saying, oh my God, this is piteous. Noble Caesar. Okay. And then one of them says, we will be revenged. So see, now the crowd has become Caesar. They don't say, we will avenge Caesar. He says, we will be revenged. Okay. Then everybody takes it up. They say revenge, about, sneak, burn, fire, kill, slay, let not a traitor live. So in a minute, the heroes have become traitors. Okay. Then Antony says, wait, countrymen, wait. Then we say, okay, now listen to the noble Antony. So it was noble Brutus, now it is noble Antony. Understand? The fickleness comes through. We'll hear him, we'll follow him, we'll die with him. This was the very crowd who was going to go with Brutus and, take him in a procession to his house. Now what has happened? Okay, they are ready to celebrate Antony. And earlier they had said, let him dare not speak a word against Brutus. Now they say, let us listen to the noble Antony. It says, good friends, don't let me get you angry by all of this, flood of mutiny. Okay. They have done this deed. They that have done this deed are honorable. Now this word, okay, which is such a great word, a good word, honorable, is now a slur. Okay. It is a slur. It is a slight. It is an insult. Understand? Who did this? They are very honorable. Okay. What private anger they had with Caesar, I don't know, that made them do it. So see, earlier those people had shouted liberty, freedom, enfranchisement. Now what Antony has done is that he has made it into a personal grudge. That is what he does. Okay. I don't know what personal problems made them do it. They are wise and honorable. See, again, he is insulting them and will no doubt with reasons answer you. They'll give you a lot of reasons. I came not, friends, to steal away your hearts. Okay, I am no orator as Brutus is, but you know me, a plain, blunt man that love my friend, and they that know full well that gave me public leave to speak of him, for I have neither writ order, nor words, nor worth. Okay, I have no power, I have no great vocabulary, I am not very wealthy, I'm not, that worthy action, nor utterance, nor the power of speech to stir men's blood. I only speak right on. I tell you that which you yourself do know. Show you sweet Caesar's wounds, poor, dumb mouths, and bid them speak for me. But were I Brutus, and Brutus Antony, there were an Antony would ruffle up your spirits and put a tongue in every wound of Caesar that should move the stones of Rome to rise and mutiny. Okay, so he says, see, I should not get you angry, I'm sorry. Okay, but I am not a very good orator. You know me, I'm a blunt man. Now his reputation as a reveler, as a philanderer, it's very well known. So you know me, I'm just a casual guy, nothing big about me. I am not a great orator like Brutus is. I am not a wonderfully well-read or honorable man. Nothing of that sort. So I don't know what to say, but I would like to show you what I know. I don't know what they had a problem with, but I can show you what I know, and that the wounds of Caesar. I can show you the wounds of Caesar. And he says, if I were Brutus and if Brutus were Antony, then what I would do is that I would put a tongue in each of these wounds. I would make each of these wounds speak. So what, Antony is indirectly saying is that, Brutus should have allowed the body of Caesar to speak if he were Antony. So he says, I am going to let the injuries of Caesar speak for themselves, how he has been brutally murdered. And he says, these wounds, Brutus would have, said so many things about these wounds that, each of these wounds would speak for themselves and they would incite you to mutiny. Okay. That is what he says. The wounds would incite you to mutiny through the words of Brutus. This is if Brutus were Antony and if Antony were Brutus. And immediately the crowd says, we will mutiny. See, they seem to take the last lines or sentence of whatever these people speak and they repeat it. So we'll mutiny. They say, we'll burn Brutus's house. This was the house that they were going to go in a procession to. Remember? Then he says, come away. Let us seek the conspirators. Now they have become traitors. They have become conspirators. And he's like, wait, don't go here. Listen to me. Then again, most noble Antony, let us listen to him. He's like, why, friends, do you go, you go to do you know not what? He said, why are you going to do something you don't know what you're going to do? He says, shouldn't you know why Caesar deserved your love? So see, he does not want the public memory, to die out. Okay, so he wants to leave a lasting impression on them. See, the thing with Brutus is that he gave them a dry speech, did not give them any concrete reasons. He only said, Caesar was ambitious, we killed him. Caesar was ambitious, we killed him. Apart from that, he didn't say anything. Then he also said, if I am ambitious, I will kill myself. That's it. But here, Antony has given them, proof from things that they themselves saw, has given them proof from history. Okay, that is, the coffers and the ransom and so on, has given them, an incident from Caesar's life, an anecdote, where he wore that new cloak after he won over the Nervi. Okay, he has done all of that. And he's also talked about this will being there. He showed them the wounds. He is branding Caesar's memory into the minds of the people. Yes, he is stirring people's emotions, as Afra has pointed out. Understand? He is appealing to the emotions and emotion. What do you want to know? So you say, you forgot that will I spoke about. They say, oh yes, the will. Oh yes, true. Let us stay and hear the will. So see, the crowd was so inflamed by Antony's speech that they forgot that will. So see, this is what I said. Public memory is very, very short-lived. Yeah. So Antony says, here is the will. Under Caesar's seal. Now Caesar has certified it. To every Roman citizen, he gives, to every several man, this is every citizen, every human being, will get 75 drachmas. Okay? That's a lot of money. Most noble Caesar, we will revenge his death. Okay, everyone is a royal Caesar. Then Antony, wait, listen to me. Then he says, okay, now what? More than money, he has left something more. He's like, he has left you all his walks, left you all his property, his estate, his orchard on this side of the river Tiber. He hath left them to you and to your children forever. Okay, he has made it all common property. Okay, you can walk around, you can enjoy, you can eat the fruits. Nobody will object to that. Here was a Caesar. When comes such another? Okay, so see, this is Caesar. This is a Caesar, a true king. Where else will you find another? Okay. The first citizen says, never, never. Okay. Now, do you remember that earlier when Brutus had finished speaking, somebody said, let us make him another Caesar. Right? And, they also say that, this is Caesar's better parts will be crowned in Brutus. Okay. But now they say there shall be no replacement for Caesar. Right. There was So immediately they say we'll burn his body in the holy place, and with the brands, with those, twigs, with those flames, we will burn the traitors' houses. So they said, take up the body, take up the body. See, earlier, Brutus was planning to give a very ritualistic, formal burial to Caesar, but now the crowds are going to cremate him. Okay, go get the fire, pluck down the benches, anything wooden, do all of that, build the pyre for Caesar, and let us cremate him. Citizens go with the body. Okay, and Antony says, now let it work. Mischief, thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt. So he has unleashed havoc upon all of Rome. Okay, now servant says, Octavius is already come to Rome. Octavius is arrived. This is, where is he? He said Caesar's house. This is, I will come there. Okay, tell him. And he says, fortune is merry. And in this mood, it will give us anything. So he says, we are going to be very, very fortunate, and fortune or destiny is on our side. Remember that Brutus had said, now is when fate is going to decide whether she is going to side with us, make us heroes or villains. Okay, now fate, okay, is as fickle as the crowd. Okay, that is what you can understand here. Now, yes, that brings us to the end of this act. Do you have any questions? Oh, sorry, not act, scene. Do you have any questions?
Ma'am, isn't that called demagoguery? Stirring up people's emotions?
Yeah, sure. It is.
Okay.
So to come to that question that Rima raised earlier, I mean, point that she had brought up earlier, whether that Caesar's body could be seen as the ultimate political weapon. See, by now it would have become very, very apparent to you. See, this is the reason why Antony had brought Caesar's body in that fashion to the people, so that he can use that as a very, very visual memory for the people to act upon. This is why most often when a famous leader passes away, they take a procession of the body, so that it remains in the minds of the people, and all his deeds can be recounted, what he was, what he stood for. Okay, it is in a way establishing the legacy of the human being. Okay, so where Brutus's speech was painfully short, it was short in length, it was short on emotions, okay, and it did not give any reasons. See, this is exactly how Brutus's mind also works. He is so caught up, he is so enchanted by his, honor and, his high standards, that he feels that his word is enough. Okay, but Antony, on the other hand, is a man of the masses. So he knows how the mind of the crowd works. So what he does is that he appeals to their emotions, he gives them evidence, okay, and he gives them an image they will never forget. Okay, not just the cloak of Caesar, but also the mutilated, butchered body of Caesar. Understand? Then, on top of everything else, by that one master stroke of declaring Caesar's will, where he leaves his entire property, his estates, orchards, everything for the people and their descendants, he in one stroke, murders or kills the idea that Caesar was ambitious, that Caesar had plans of becoming a dictator, that he was planning to usurp power. Because this was a man who did not keep anything for himself. Understand? Now what happens is that the people who were hailed as heroes of liberty and freedom and enfranchisement and so on are now seen as traitors and conspirators. Okay, so Antony's speech is a great study in assessing the psychology of the crowd. Understand? So the various shades of meaning, where honorable started out as a very hostile term. Okay, it started out as a very wary and cautious term. He was using it with a great deal of care. Understand? He was using it in a very wary fashion. But as time went by, he was using it as a term of doubt. Understand? Then he began using it as a slur. Okay, he began using it as an insult. Okay, and finally he began using it as a term that indicated mocking. Okay. And then the very meaning of the word honorable changed for the crowd. Okay. Right.
Excuse me,
Yeah,
just one more question.
sure.
Should we wait till the end of the play to analyze whether Brutus or Caesar is the hero of the play, or can we start talking about it now? Because we saw Caesar showing his ego and being ambitious whilst he was talking, and now after Antony's speech, we also have this notion of Caesar being very, I mean, such a good ruler, not as ambitious as he seemed to be. Um, it is a question that has appeared, like, I think it was in the question paper too, like, how was Brutus the hero of this play, and why is Brutus the hero of this play? So how can we do that, man?
I think let us get a complete picture of the play so that it becomes clear. Because by now, I think you also would have formed all your opinions about who is the actual hero of this play, right?
It's kind of confusing. I want to say Brutus,
Uh,
but Caesar's not so bad either. I don't know. It's just confusing.
why? Why? What about the rest of you? Who do you think? Okay. Before we come to that, yeah,
Ma'am, actually the
yeah.
question, yeah, ma'am, actually the question is about a tragic hero. Who is the tragic hero of the play? So
Okay. Who is the
confusing.
tragic hero of the play? Fine. Before we discuss that, let me just finish this particular scene. It's a tiny scene. Okay. It shows you the how the mentality of the crowd works. Okay. Now, as you know, there are two sinners. Okay. So one is Cinna, a poet. The other one is the sinner who was a conspirator. Okay, but what happens is that the crowd encounters Cinna the poet, and by just listening to his name, kills him. Okay, they do not kind of reason or understand or anything like that. I'm sorry, they just kill him. Okay, he keeps saying, I am Sina the poet, I'm Sina the poet. Then they say, okay, kill him for his bad poetry. Okay, this is, I am not Sina the conspirator. And they say that does not matter, his name is Sina. Okay, pluck but his name out of his heart and turn him going. So he says, take his name away from his heart and send him. Okay. Then he says they all tear into pieces. Now, if you remember that there have been a number of times when, in the world, when because of an act of violence or terrorism, sometimes people of a certain community have been randomly attacked because they, kind of are mistaken. It's a case of mistaken identity. So a number of Sikhs, Punjabi people from India who were in America during the time of the 9/11 had been attacked. Okay. And nobody tried to, kind of discern or differentiate between these people and those people. I'm not saying that anybody should be attacked, but the mentality of the crowd. So the crowd, actually speaking, or the mob, is a very dangerous instrument. Understand? So that is what we see in this particular scene. And then they say, okay, now some of us, we will go to Brutus's house, some will go to Cassius's house, Decius's house, some to Casca's house, and some to Ligarius' house. Okay, and they all leave. Okay, so that brings us to the end of Act 3. All right. In this entire thing, apart from the hero question, do you have any doubts, any clarification, which is, anything that is not clear?
It's nothing to clarify, ma'am, but then I also read that this might be a reference to the bishop's ban that had happened in 1599, the same year as you wrote Julius Caesar. How is that possible, ma'am?
Say it again, please.
People killing Cinna the poet as a reference to bishop's ban in the Elizabethan era in 1599, in the same era as which Julius Caesar was written. Like maybe the effect of poetry, how
Yes, see, the portion where, he says, kill him for his bad verses and so on. Shakespeare was pretty much fond of, mixing things up, understand? So he was one of those people who brought in a bit of contemporary references. Okay. And in fact, the bishop's ban was something that looked to, I think, ban satires, right? And you could not print any more satires or any kind of let's say raunchy verses and so on. Okay, and this was known. This was an act of censorship on the part of the bishop of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Okay, that's the only kind of bishop they had, I suppose, at that point. So yeah, and it's a mark of that. And I think what he was trying to do is that he was trying to bring about a sense of the contemporary into the proceedings. That's about it. Like with the reference to the God and the angel Lucifer kind of a thing. Okay, so good point there. Anything else?
Ma'am, ma'am, there was a question that asked
Hmm.
about the climax of the play. So would we refer to this scene,
This act is the
this
climax
act?
of the play.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Where Anthony
Okay.
is speaking to the
Yeah.
crowd?
Climax, no, the entire act 3 can be seen as the climax of the play. Like I said, in now see, the problem here is we don't know what the scheme reflects. Okay, so it will always be better if you write about the exposition and all of that, and then refer to this particular scene as the climax of the play. It is better if you show those stages of narrative in drama. Understand?
Oh,
And
yes,
then
ma'am.
refer
Yes,
to
ma'am.
this entire act, because after all, in Act 3, Scene 1, there is the killing of Caesar. Then in the Scene 2, there is the speech by Brutus and Antony. So you can kind of telescope all of this and call the entire Act 3 the climax.
Okay, ma'am.
Was this an essay question?
No, ma'am. This was a 2-mark question.
2-mark question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then please just list it down. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Just first of all, say that as per the rules of narrative in drama, you have all of these stages, and as per the in a 5-act play, Act 3 would generally be the climax, and true to its name, it kind of is the result of all the action that has been building up towards it, and the following 2 acts that come are consequential or the result of the climax, and this marks the high point of the play because the action reaches its peak. In the 3rd act, the action reaches its peak, after which there is falling action. Understand?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
But it is very important to mention these stages so that the examiner knows what you're talking about. I don't know whether climax is. Okay, so similarly, if somebody imagines that's going to be a bit of a problem. That's why. Anything else?
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
there was also this idea about the killing of the poet Cinna being a hilarious yet terrifying echo of Caesar's death. Of it having partial elements, but still bringing back the visual
Yeah,
memory.
it's got farcical elements in it because it was, see, if you think about it, it had no need to be there because already the fickleness of the crowd has become very clear. But I suppose it is to give the audience some mirth after this high tension. Understand? So possibly it is to help with that kind of a thing. That it's also could be dramatic convenience is what I'm thinking, because after that what happens is you have Act 4. Okay, where you have the triumvirate that is formed, and they are kind of talking about their enemy, so maybe a shift of scene was also required. Okay, so probably this could have served as that much needed relief for the audience as well as for the actors.
Okay.
That's right.
Thank you, ma'am.
So you could call it a reference to the bishop's ban of that period. You could talk about it as a dramatic necessity. It could also be a farce of the not the killing of Caesar per se, but it could possibly be a kind of a reflection of what could possibly happen to the conspirators. Okay, so that could be it. Because in a way, yeah, sure, the killing of Caesar could also be reflected, because while those people had talked about honor and glory and were trying to talk about it as fighting for freedom, here is a man, just because he shares the name Cinna, he is being killed. in an almost comical fashion. Even when he says that, he's not that sinner, he's still being killed, meaning that, the crowd just wants to kill. So they're like, let's, kill him for his bad poetry. So as casually as that, a mob turns to killing. Okay, so sure. Anything else? So now shall we talk about the idea of Brutus or Caesar as the tragic hero?
Yes, ma'am.
So see, as I have mentioned earlier, in classic drama, okay, the hero, the tragic hero at least, has to be somebody of a very high station. Okay, and there has to be some inherent flaw in his character, which could lead to an unfortunate turn of events and loss of fortune, loss of name, and so on, and a fall from grace. Okay, and this fall from grace will be so terrible as to move the audience to experience fear and pity and fear, and thereby experience catharsis. Okay, so if you think about that, for me, Brutus would come about as the tragic hero. Okay, by this definition, simply, for the reason that his tragic flaw was that he was gullible. Okay, he was gullible, and that led to this tremendous fall from grace. He was a praetor, he was a judge. Okay, he was a man who was living a peaceful life. He had a loving wife, and he was comfortable. He had a great legacy. Okay, he came from an exalted family. And here, he meets this man, Cassius, okay, who influences him using his words, his ideas, and he, kind of, takes Brutus on such a magical vision of himself that he completely buys in to the cause. He's totally convinced, understand? And he works out of conviction. Okay, he works out of conviction, that firm belief that he is right. Okay. And this is what makes his situation rather pitiful. Okay, because we know, you and I, the audience, everybody knows that Cassius's intentions are not honorable. That Cassius was only using Brutus as a front, okay, for getting back at Caesar, for pulling Caesar down. So, in a way, Brutus, while he imagined that he had the most prominent role, he was in fact nothing more than a puppet. Understand? And when you see that this man, who was so peaceable, okay, so agreeable, okay, when such a man like him suddenly is thrown into the role of being the face of a rebellion, okay, it is very saddening. Okay, and from here, from this point onwards, when he goes to his house alone, he tells everybody, this entire crowd, see, he is the one who brings about his own downfall by, using his goodwill, okay, his influence to ask the crowd to stay back and listen to Antony, who turns the tide. Understand? So here you have him, falling prey to the words of what's his name, Cassius, and on the other hand, you have him, being painted as an absolute villain by Antony, the very man he chose to let live, chose to spare his life, and also asked the crowd to stay back and listen to. The very crowd that was eating out of his hand at one point of time now is used by Antony to turn against him, to get back at him, to get revenge. Understand? So a man who had honor, a man who had a wonderful reputation, a man who had a family, okay, is rendered homeless, okay, without a good name, okay, insulted, as well as hunted. Isn't that a tragic fall? And why did all of this happen? His gullibility. Okay, his absolute belief in his sense of honor and in the honor of those around him. Even Mark Antony, Mark Antony is a consummate politician. Okay, he's an absolute politician. Okay, he gave these false promises to Brutus, and Brutus believed those. So his, gullibility, his vulnerability, his guilelessness. Okay, all of this puts him at a great disadvantage. That is his tragic flaw, his gullibility and his absolute faith in, his sense of honor and in the sense of honor of those around him. Okay, so that is Brutus. Now, why would we call Caesar the tragic hero? He had power, he had position, he had all of that. But he showed absolutist tendencies. He showed dictatorial tendencies. He always referred to himself in the loftiest of terms. He did not regard those around him as his equal. He saw those around him as being beneath him or below him. Okay. But he was betrayed in the most, unseemly fashion. Okay. But such is the fate of dictators everywhere. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So for me, Brutus is the tragic hero, going by the Aristotelian sense of the term, or any sense of the term. But who is the hero of this play? If you remove the word tragic, who is the hero of this play?
Antony?
Yes. Antony is the hero of this play. And if you think about it, a tragic hero kind of a concept, it just suddenly struck me that if, Cassius were a more highly placed noble, then he would also be the tragic hero of this play. Because, I think about it, he was extremely intelligent. He was sharp. Okay. He had a very good idea of the people around him. All of this was there. But his tragic flaw was that he did not use his cunning when the time was right. He let Brutus guide him in spite of knowing that Brutus is no leader. Okay, he did that. He told this man a number of times, do not trust Antony. I don't like it. Brutus chose to disregard him. Okay. And that is why I said he placed, he let Brutus lead when he knew fully well that Brutus is no leader of men. Okay. And that is what he paid the price for. So he let his personal prejudice, he let his personal grudge towards Caesar, have the better of him. And he managed to bring down a figure like that. He managed to bring down a figure like Julius Caesar. Yet he lost because of the misplaced faith of Brutus, whose character he knew extremely well. He knew Antony also extremely well. So, he did not use his knowledge when it mattered the most. That's the price he had to pay for it. Okay. So if you're looking for another tragic hero, it would be nice if you could mention this in your answer. But yeah, for me, out and out, Brutus is. Rima, what are you saying yes to?
I was talking about Brutus being the tragic hero.
That way. Yeah, sure. Brutus is. So yeah, any other opinions? Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.